Well, welcome back, Internet. I don't know why you've been gone for so long, but I guess I won't make you feel bad about it. Today, the world brings us the 2014 Chevrolet Cruze LT with the 1.4 liter turbo. The story goes they were driving along and she stalled, coming up to a stoplight. And the stall will happen a few times. The stall is intermittent, and the stall will turn into a crank no start right after the stall. So just crank and won't fire. And then, if they let this vehicle sit for somewhere between 20 minutes and all night, then it will fire right up and drive normal again until it has another intermittent stall. That's really about all I know on her. They've got a couple previous services which I don't think are going to be related to this. They did have a coil pack installed that did fix a misfire. They did have a catalytic converter installed that did fix a check engine light, and these were repairs some time ago. That is what I know now. I did a little pre-check on her. She's leaking a whole bunch of fluid, at least oil, but we got the oil topped off, and now we're just going to hook the tool up to her. I think it's got a check engine light. We'll see what that's about and get going on her. We do have some codes in there. Nothing that is too super obvious though. Got a engine coolant flow, engine underboost, cat, immobilizer. Like I said, it starts and runs right now. We got several loss of sensor and comm stuff in the brake module. Looks like lateral accel, invalid data, yaw rate, control module power, lost comm with engine control module, invalid data. That's kind of interesting. Lost comm multi-axis accelerometer, lost comm with steering wheel angle, lost comm with radio, and I think that's it. We got 15 computers in this thing. I suppose I will just see if I can go through and probably just glance at some freeze frame stuff, see if anything happened when we had like, hot coolant, no engine speed or something like that, and then probably blow all these out. I must say I am overall pretty poor at checking freeze frame first, but I think I'm glad I did in this specific case. So this is for, I think this is the underboost code. Let me back up. Oh, my mistake. Engine coolant flow insufficient. My mistake there. Distance since first malfunction, 15 miles. So this is fairly recent, but definitely she got warm. There's no doubt about it. Looks like she was traveling down the road, and 8-minute run time, 50% purge. We'll keep that in mind. Doesn't GM have issues with their purge valves? I know they do on like their trucks and stuff. I don't know if they do on these things. Anyway, I'm gonna glance through this a little bit more. I really thought that was gonna be more adventurous. I thought we had an underboost code with a super hot coolant temp, but I'll keep going. Phone died. Quick recap. Saved off some of the freeze frame from the engine computer. I saved freeze frame from coolant and underboost. And what was the only thing I saw was a little weird or interesting, the freeze frame for the the catalytic converter, had battery voltage of like 15. Don't know. Immobilizer stuff that we had that code, there's no freeze frame for. I don't know if it has something to do with that being the state of our key or not. And all the stability accelerometer stuff, there was no freeze frame for any of those codes. So on no further, we will I guess just start her up. Well, she runs. Anyway, I guess we'll just start her up and let her run. The Schrader valve for the fuel rail is a port injection system, it looks like. The Schrader valve, the cap is missing, so it looks like somebody else has been checking fuel pressure. Oh yeah, I'm glad I remembered that. I got a little bit of mixed information about when the engine stalls. One person said, so the main person I'm dealing with wasn't the main driver of the car, but one person said that it seemed to stumble a little bit whenever it cut out on them while they were driving, while it stalled. Makes me curious about fuel pressure. Then I spoke to the actual driver, and they mentioned that it just felt like the accelerator had no response. So it was unclear if when the accelerator had no response, if the engine was still rotating or spinning or trying to run. We don't know that. But if if we have a loss of power description, I really don't know what else to go after in the moment other than fuel pressure. So I think we'll probably grab a gauge, we'll get her fired up and let her run, probably drive around the parking lot a bit, see what fuel pressure spec is, and go from there. If it ain't broke, I can't fix it. So I don't know what we'll find on this one. Well, I really don't know why service information has to be so difficult. If you go to like general pressure specs, there ain't nothing in there for fuel pressure. But if you search and somehow find this, what is it, like fuel pressure, fuel system diagnosis page, I don't even know what folder path we used to get here. Anyway, it says 54 to 94, and then it says if between 50 and 94, make sure the fuel pressure decreases to less than 87 after the pump is turned off. So we've got a 50 to 94, and 87, and then verify fuel pressure does not decrease more than 5 psi in 1 minute. So it sounds like those are our baselines. We're looking for a 50 to 94, a below 87, and a 5 psi per minute. I did hook this gauge up and just started it up once, so we will, not that you can see, we're going to go ahead and key on. Of course, you can't see because there's a glare. All right, key on. We're at 59-ish, it looks like. So 59 psi is within our 50 to 94. Let's fire it up. And we're in, what was that, 58-ish, something like that. Give her a little stab, a little bit. Apparently this is a returnless system. It's a little dip. Oh, well that's a little low. That's below our 50, below our 50 to 94. I'll rev it again. She's a little low. That's interesting. Also, service info said something about we might be able to read that pressure through scan tool. I'm gonna grab that PID at the same time because if I can look at the PID data, that'd be a little easier. My bad. Idling pressure is a little different. That was a key on engine off test for the higher pressure. Let's have a peek. See, we get down here to engine idling test. Verify 43 to 58, and we are at, I'll call it 44-ish, and say that spec fits that. Sounds like we have high pressure, key on, engine off, and then the fizz. Said check fuel trims. That'd be a good thing to watch too when we start cruising this thing around. I'm probably gonna drive around the parking lot. We'll watch fuel trims. That'll be really helpful actually to record fuel trims if we can get it to stall. I like that idea. That's helpful. I will say I did look at the fuel trims in the codes that were listed in a freeze frame, so the under boost and over temp, and long term was like 0 and 1, and short term was like 1.5 or something like, or 3. So they were like pretty dialed in. But I think we got our next step. Looks like we're just gonna have to cruise this thing around a parking lot, see if we get it to stall. I'll be watching fuel pressure and long-term and short-term trims on scan tool. And man, if something happens, I will catch you up then. Well, I kid you not, the engine just stalled. I was literally going through and picking PIDs to go through and record, and it just stalled out. We still we still have good fuel pressure, so we're not worried about pressure. These are things that I was literally just going through picking parameters so I could record the stuff. But I wasn't actually recording yet, so I don't know what just happened. Let's see if it restarts. Can you see? There's a tack. So we'll crank it. So it's cranking. We got good fuel pressure. And we got, well, that's cool. So it's a crank no start. Well, really quickly, we're gonna go get some Narcan and see if that does anything. All right, well, I got you set up there. We're gonna make sure she's still crank no start. Had to unbolt the airbox cover. All right, she is still a crank no start. Give her a little huffy, maybe. Oh, the air filter stuck up in there. Give her a little something to puff on. Nothing. Crank it again. So we've got a loss of ignition control, it seems. All right. Okay. So here's our new coil that they said they previously put on. So I've got I think they mentioned the zip tie connector, but I mean that looks like that's still on there pretty good. But yeah, I guess we're gonna pull some ignition wiring diagrams and figure out why she ain't firing that coil. I kid you not. I just wanted to check it one more time with a little can of spray, and she fired up. Now she's idling again. Um, either way, I don't think either way, I don't think it really changes our direction. We gave her a pretty good huff that one time, and she did not fire back up. So I think we're chasing ignition. We'll go pull some wiring diagrams on that. All right, class, pay attention. I think we at least have a decent test plan. This is our ignition control module down here on the bottom. These are our fuel injectors up here on the top. They are both controlled by the engine computer. They both get power from the underhood fuse block. And there are 7 wires on this dude. I took this is the OE diagram. I printed the aftermarket one, the non-OE, because it gives a cool little representation. But I'll be curious. Oh, and by the way, when this thing stalled, it shut down pretty easy. Like it wasn't a hard, it didn't spit and sputter. It shut down like you turned the key off. And if we lose power or something to here, I think that might be what we got. So same thing, ignition control module, fuel injectors. We got a couple grounds. This one ground's a little weird. I'm not familiar with why or how this ground works. So it's a ground to ground from engine control to ignition control module. I'm not seeing a redundant ground like that. I don't know what that means. Anyway, if you follow this one around, that was a black and blue wire. So black and blue, you follow it around, it just says like low ref inside the engine computer also. Anyway, power to the coil comes from this little junction splice over here. This junction splice comes through a fuse, and that fuse comes from the ignition control relay. I will also draw our attention to the fuel injectors. All have this red and blue wire as well. They all come down and they all go to that same splice, same fuse, same relay. I'll be curious if we've got a bad connection here or something. I think we're going to pin out power, ground, ground, and we'll have a fourth one, so we'll probably just pick ignition control 1 for our scope and see if we can't get it to stall again. Right on. We have pinned these conveniently the same lettering that they are listed here. They are not numbered, they are lettered. So we got A on the B plus fused relay circuit. We got B on our ground 112. B's a little noisy, but it's got a lot of things going to it, so it kind of makes some sense there. C, we got on the low reference. This is the one that's shared between the engine computer and the ignition control module. This dude here, or whatever the thing that is, that one's a lot quieter. And then on number 4 is just on ignition control 1 with an attenuator, even I don't think we'll need it on this one. Well, that's what we got going on the scope. Let's fire it up. We also got rid of the fuel pressure gauge. Fire in the hole. Alright, she is running. We got our data streaming along. I suppose I will run this time bank. She's moving everywhere. Let's hit a 50. Let's see if we can't get a trigger going on. Channel D. What do you want? Trigger on. Not even pay attention. I'm doing the camera. Trigger on D. Something like that. Now we can at least see what is green. Green is our big ground. There's quite a bit of noise. Oh, the scale for the green trace is zoomed in pretty far. So on green, the top here, these spikes are about 400 millivolts, it looks like. So definitely some noise there. Same thing on the blue. We're zoomed in a little bit here, so it looks like maybe 100 millivolts or something like that there. Well, I suppose we'll zoom out one more, and I'll just let this old girl run, and we shall see if she stalls. Well, I kid you not, as soon as I hit the camera button, she stalled. Oh, hit the stop button. I hit the stop button. I don't know if I hit it soon enough. Let me see if I can page back and catch it. So this is interesting. You may have caught it when it was paging through, but our ground starts getting like extra noisy, and then here's the stall. So we're still trying to fire the ignition coils. We can see we've got a drop in voltage. So this will be system voltage. So we're sitting at about 15 volts. Oops, you can't even see them then. So this is our B plus, sitting about 15 volts. Seems a little bit high, but whatever. And these spikes are a little interesting. Anyway, sitting about 15 volts, and then we can see right about here. Oops. It drops down to like 13 volts. If I hit the next page, I'm sure it'll go a little bit lower. Yeah, it's continuing to drop. So here's when the engine shut down. We're no longer controlling our ignition coils, but we do still have power to the ignition coils. So coils are still being fed, and we got a lot quieter on our ground. Let's go back a page. This is interesting. I wonder what is going on with so much noise. I'm gonna look at all this noisy ground stuff again. So we're at 400 millivolts at the top side and about negative 700 millivolts on the low side of that ground. Anyway, let's page back again. And so now we got these gaps in this ground. Page back again. There's pretty noisy again. Oh, we probably should check this as a crank no start. So this is, see, we got more gaps in here. I don't know if this is related or not, but it looks like the engine stalled before, I'm going to say likely, well, I shouldn't. It's hard to tell. I was making an assumption here. I was making an assumption that when the voltage dropped, it dropped because the engine speed was dropping and therefore voltage was dropping on the alternator. I guess it's possible it could be controlled lower because it's still at 13 volts, We're also losing these big spikes as well. Let me save this and then we'll do a crank, see if it cranks or fires. All right, we got that waveform saved off. Let's see if she cranks and fires. So she's firing the coils and she's a no start. That means we got to have no fuel. If we're, well, at least we have coil. Ooh. At least we have coil command, but we might not still be firing that coil. I'll be curious if we're not firing that coil. Looks like we gotta hit that old girl with some huff again. All right, you are set up. Let's see if it is still a crank no start. We'll fire. Okay, still crank no start. So let's hopefully we can hit this fast enough. It's a little more than last time, just to make sure she gets through. We'll crank her for a while. Ooh, she tried to fire. So I'm thinking, because this thing's turboed, I'm thinking last time we didn't crank it long enough. I think for it to get through the full charge air cooler system. Let's do that one more time just to make sure we're on the right path. We're actually missing fuel, or excuse me, yeah, fuel on this one. All right. Battery's getting a little weak. We're just going to make sure. I wonder what happens if we push on this. I think they said they may have pushed on this connector a time or two before we got here. Oh, I wonder if we got just a bad connection here. Oh, there it was. There she was. All that for that. You got to be kidding me. Let's fire it up again. You got to be kidding me. I just stalled it by hitting that connector. Can you see it in the camera? You kind of can, kind of can't. I'll be dang. Let me set you up. Hold on. Where are you at? All right, so our connector, by the way, our connector is a little, so they broke the main tab off of it, and I ain't pulled it off yet. It's just got the zip tie running around it. Let's see if we can stall it and fix it again just by messing with that connector. I'm having a terrible time trying to set you up in this engine bay. I don't know what to tell you, just deal with it. Okay, now you can see the connector and you can probably hear stuff. Let's see what we got. See she'll fire. So we got nothing. Let's push on this, push it inward. Okay, pushed inward. We'll see what happens. Oh, fires right up. We're gonna push inward again. So we're holding in. I'm gonna push down. I'm gonna pull up. Well, now it's nothing. Oh. I think that's it right there. Let's do a drag test. Let's check those pin fitments. Okay, we got her unplugged. The pins in an actual coil, they look fine. They all look straight. And I think I got to the best of my ability. Can you see what I'm doing? You can. The right size. So we will just start going down the line here. That one feels all right. A feels good. B feels good. C feels good. D, E, F, and G. You know, they all feel good. So I'm curious if just the fact this whole thing's busted out like that, it just needs actual clip to retain her on. Well, let me see if I can order a replacement one of those and see if we can't splice her together. All right, well, we can and did. We ordered the new ignition plug connector. It's a slightly different design, but it looks like it'll work. The plug on the wire side's got a little T shape in it, but the receiver side on the coil is just perfectly oval, and the new one's perfectly oval. And so I think what we might end up doing, I'm not sure if I want to cut them wires and splice in the new one, because the new one's got, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 inches pigtail attached to it as well. or if I want to depin these and snake them in the new connector. I may want to depin them. I don't know. We'll see what happens when it comes in. But anyway, it's going to be a couple days before she shows up with that new connector. I'll bring you back once I figure out which way I want to get that thing installed and she's plugged in. We got the new connector. She's installed. There's the old one. And I was 100% sure to install that new one in the exact way that the internet says is wrong. I really wanted to get the actual pins in there, all kidding aside. But this one's pretty hard to get the pins out of there. So I could depin them from this one pretty straightforwardly, but this one's pretty snug up in there. Anyway, while we're talking, one thing that kind of come up in my mind that is a little unclear to me, if we had an intermittent connection there at our ignition coil plug harness deal, why was there no circuit codes for this thing? I think that there probably should have been some circuit codes. So I'm going to plug in and scan it with that connector unplugged and see if we get any circuit codes that show up. Like, no kidding. Check this out. We have no codes. That connector is unplugged. Let's scan her one more time. Key is on, I believe. We got our check engine light there. Look at this. We have no codes. And I swear to you, once the shop gremlin come in here and plugged her in, like, we have no codes for this. That is super trippy. But I'll say this does give me a lot more confidence. We'll scan her one more time. This does give me a lot more confidence in our fix, though, because none of the codes that we looked at before seem to be relevant, and we did have an issue, and the issue is literally not being detected. I guess we can try and crank it. I think everything's safe under there. Let's go ahead and crank her over. She obviously ain't going to fire. I don't want to crank it too long because fuel injectors are probably going to be firing. Alright. Let's go through here and scan this one more time. Unbelievable. There's no codes. We're gonna hit scan one more time again. Key's still on. We got check engine light. Let's scan her one more time. And if it still pulls nothing, I'm gonna go ahead and grab the global codes and see if any pop up there. That is so crazy. This is I think this does not have stop start. The fact that DTC display, no codes. This is crazy to me. I'm encouraged, but also like a little, not super frustrated by GM because we still got it, and obviously we get paid for our time. But like, we should. Oh, there we go. We want that button. I think they really should be setting a fault here. I can't believe they're not. Hit auto scan. So we'll do the OBD2 or general code scan. Codes found 0. No freaking way. DTCs. Like, we have a permanent catalyst code. That's hysterical. Well, at this point, I'm going to just disconnect all my scope stuff. We'll plug that harness back in. We'll get her fired up and probably just let her idle for a while here in the bay, and we'll drive around the parking lot. And then she runs good for a while. I suppose we'll take her down the road, and I think call this a fix. If something else weird shows up, I'll catch up to you or catch you up then. But I don't know. We'll see what happens after we get her actually fired and running. Well, I tell you, seems like we got a fix on the old girl. We let her run for like a half an hour in the shop. We done took her in the parking lot, ripped some donuts both ways, took her down the road, hit some bumps. She's just purring along, got no cutouts, nothing like that at all. So I suppose that's it. We're done on this one. I hope that was helpful for someone, and I will catch y'all up in the next video. And don't wait so long before you come back next time. What's the matter with you?